Hey boo, before we get into this episode, I need to share something that is close to my heart. Did you know that about half of us who are black, including me, have O-type blood, which is the go-to for emergencies? But here's the real tea. 1 in 3 African American blood donors is a match for sickle cell patients who desperately need our help. That's why I'm teaming up with the American Red Cross for the Join by Blood initiative this October to spread the word about the power of donating blood. Blood and platelets support patients with sickle cell disease who rely on regular blood transfusions as well as those undergoing new gene therapy treatments. Now, this isn't just about giving blood. It's about creating a bond, a connection within our community. When you donate, you're not just helping a stranger, you're helping family because we're all connected. So sis, head over to joinbyblood.org and schedule your donation today. Whether you're O-type or not, every drop counts and helps to save lives. Let's come together and show the power of our community. We can all make a difference, one donation at a time. This is Girls Stop Playing, a weekly show that empowers Black women to stop playing with their potential so they can live a life that they love. I'm Koereyelle, your favorite homegirl, and I'm on a mission to help Black women make the money and get the honey. You can have it all as long as you're willing to work. Welcome back to another episode of the Girl Stop Playing podcast. It's your favorite homegirl, Koereyelle, here to encourage you to stop playing with your potential and start working for what you want in life and in love. You already know that I'm bringing you the information and the conversation to help you make the money and get the honey. You can have it all as long as you are willing to work. And today we have one of my favorite working women in the building. My girl Mea is in the studio.
Hey, Ko, what's up?
Hey, boo. How are you?
I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for jet setting, hopping on a flight to get here this morning.
Of course, anytime.
So I feel like the name of this episode is going to be like Girl Gone Global or something, because you are definitely like the definition of a global girl. So give yourself a proper introduction, and then I want to talk about like your globe-trotting experiences.
Okay, awesome. I'm Mea Boykins. I'm from New Orleans, Spelman grad, so shout out to HBCUs. I have a psychology background, so I studied psychology there thinking that it was my passion. Actually, my passion is to be a humanitarian and to do projects around the world, which I know you and I would talk more about as well. But it was a great start at Spelman, and then I ended up doing a master's in psychology at King's College London after studying abroad in Paris at Spelman. So I kind of fell in love with being global, ended up hating psychology, switched careers, moved to global business. So I found a global business degree that was in Taiwan, Barcelona, and in San Francisco. And I did that global business degree. That was a huge asset to my life. And yeah, now I'm working on a PhD in governance and public policy in Jamaica. So it's the 6th country I've lived in.
For real, global girl. Okay, I want to pause at the thought I wanted to do this, found out later that I hated it moment, because so many of us have that moment where it's like we're at this crossroads where most of the time it's like we've gotten to the mountaintop, meaning we've done all this climbing, these classes, these student loans, these late hours, this studying. We've done all of this stuff to get this thing, and then we got it. We're holding it. And we like, but wait a minute, this is what it is. This isn't what I thought it was going to feel like. This ain't what I thought it was going to look like. This is not what I thought I was working towards.
Exactly.
But then it's like I've paid all this money. I've spent all this time. This is what people thought I was going to do. This is what I've been told people. So sometimes we even find ourselves stuck and can't get unstuck because of all of those other details that kind of make us feel like we don't have a choice.
Right.
You obviously did not let that feeling make you feel like you had to pursue this thing. What was that in you that said, okay, you can pivot?
I think it was like my dad's influence. He's an entrepreneur, and he honestly, I wouldn't have done 80% of the things that I did if it wasn't for him encouraging me to do it. He promoted me to go abroad. I went to Paris and London when I was 15 with a high school trip. My dad had me become like a reserve deputy sheriff. I was getting my student pilot license. Like, he encouraged me to do so much. And I think it was just the faith that, you know, he would support me no matter what. So it was like a lot of comfort there. And then, you know, I was still very uncomfortable, but I did something that was comfortable to me, which was go to school. And I'm not really, it sounds like I'm just like so smart and, you know, this like nerd, but actually I've always hated school. I struggled in school my whole life. I did extra time. I had tutors. Like, I had to go to summer school sometimes. Like, it was just a lot. So to combat my like anxiety and just hate of school in general, I would do it abroad where I could travel around the world, and that would make it a little bit easier. So I think, you know, all that together was the reason why I was able to switch. And I was really miserable as a psychologist. Like, I ended up being depressed the whole time.
Ain't that something?
Yes, because I'm an empath, and it was hard for me to get attached to kids, and then they be discharged or they switched Medicaid. It's so hard to build trust, and then you have to like hurt that kid. I just felt really bad, and I was like, you know what? I can make more change with my own money and without all these restrictions.
I had that same feeling when I was a teacher. And unfortunately, so many of the people who are in those like service-oriented professions, we don't get into those careers because we think we're going to get rich. Like, we really get into them most of the time because we care, because we want to make a difference, because we want to change the world. But then you figure out that by working those jobs, you are a part of the system. And you cannot take your personal feelings out of the role that you are hired to serve. And so many people with good hearts, with the right intentions, end up leaving those professions because our morals, our values, our hearts can't take us hurting these kids or being a part of the problem. And so many good people end up moving out of those roles because it's not set up for success.
Definitely. I agree. Yeah. So I'm really happy that I made that switch.
So I wanted to definitely, like, us talking about your daddy was definitely coming up in this conversation, because I've had so many conversations on the show and on social media, and I know it's a controversial topic, but call me Controversial Co. Here we are. But when we talk about single parent, we usually talk about single moms, and there's a lot of research about the positive sides of single father-led households. And it's quote-unquote controversial because, you know, a lot of the times the conversations for single mothers is all negative. It's like, you're doing everything wrong. But when we talk about single fathers, it's like, you stood up and you're making it happen. But the numbers are what they are. And we could talk about the reasons why all day long. But what you just said about what being raised by your father did for you, the confidence that it instilled, the fact that he had you out here trying all of these things, the fact that he let you explore and let you, travel abroad and just provided you with a safe space to like really find your wings. I think that is the foundation of why these single father households, thrive.
Definitely.
It's because of the discipline, and it's because I'm gonna support your dream. It's like that safe space.
So I was able to focus.
Mm-hmm. So what is your, I guess, perspective of, or what was your biggest benefit from being raised by your dad, do you think? Now, like, as a grown woman, with all of this craziness, with the men doing what they're doing, like, how did that positively impact you?
I think the number one thing that my dad did was introduce me to God. I grew up in the church. So I was baptized young, christened, literally everything. Actually, I spent like 4 days a week in church in high school. I went to every Bible study, 3 services on Sunday. Like, I was in Koereyelle dancer. I was in choir, the church plays, everything. I hated it when I was doing it, even though I liked my friends that I made from church. But I was just like, this is too much. Like, why am I here so much? But then, like, in life, all of those messages and just that whole support and the encouragement of God, I think that was the number one thing my dad did. Mm-hmm. Because my mom isn't religious. And actually, my mom, she suffered with different things in life. And she made the decision to allow me to live with my dad at an earlier age, which, some people might look at that in a bad way, but I'm one of 5 with my mother. So I have 4 siblings, and I'm my dad's only child. So I had a much different upbringing than my other siblings. And, my father is definitely a huge part of that. Otherwise, I would say just like the overall confidence, like I never felt like I had to rush or settle to date or even marry. I'm actually 35 now and I'm not married. Like, that's kind of taboo at this age. Growing up, you were thinking, oh, we would be married by now. But it's like, I have my dad as the standard, who's been such a supporter. He's a man of God. We have Bible study weekly together. We talk about everything. And, he gave me Valentine's Day gifts every year. So I never felt like, oh, I should hurry up and rush. I want to marry someone who my dad respects and who he would feel happy and proud of. And so that's one of the reasons why I take my time.
I love that you are not allowing pressure or age or anything to deter you, from what you have decided that you want to do. And I think that millennials are definitely like rewriting the rule books. We're like, we are going to decide what we want and what the hell we don't want. We are going to make these, decisions for ourselves, regardless of what, the people tell us we should be doing, because we've realized that we're the only ones that have to live with these decisions.
Exactly.
And so I love that for you. Another controversial decision that you've made is to maintain your rich auntie status. Can we talk about it? Can we talk about it?
Definitely. Let's go.
So, maintaining your rich auntie status, translation, you don't think that you want children.
Yeah.
I only said it like that because it's like, what if you have one day and then they watch this and they be like, Mom, what the hell?
I'll tell you straight up.
You were a happy surprise, baby. But based on just what you've seen, because I feel like travel just opens you up. It exposes you to just several lifetimes. You have seen so much in your lifetime just based on leaving this country and experiencing different cultures that someone 3 times your age possibly couldn't have, experienced if they just stayed right in their own backyard. So based on what you've seen globally, based on, what you've learned, what do you feel like is impacting your decision to not have children?
I think, in my life, I never really said growing up like, oh, I want to have a child. Like, I never really had that moment. I love children. I love my nieces. They're so great. I just think like they're really expensive and time consuming. And also I'm not married. So I wouldn't never have a child without being married. I have to be happily married too, because who knows, sometimes you get married for an arrangement or a partnership. Not saying that I might, but just in case, I want to be happily married to have a child. So, and you really need a community. Mm-hmm. I see that with all the kids. It's like I co-parent and raise a lot of kids all over the world. I do things for them and support them and their families. It takes at least 15 to 20 people to really be around the child and build that child up. So that's one thing. And then also just like, I love my flexibility in life. Like I can fly. I decide when I want to leave, like the day of, book flights and leave. And also I'm just not where I want to be career-wise and financially to bring in another kid yet. But again, if I were married and I had like another, a strong unit, then that's a whole nother conversation.
I think even the fact that you have put this much thought into it and you are aware of the resources that it takes, the time that it takes, the commitment that's involved. So many people don't realize those things until it's too late. Until it's like, oh, I didn't realize I wasn't gonna be able to do what I used to do. I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people who didn't realize it until it was too late, and it was like, oh, now you can't book that flight. Oh, now you can't. And that's why when I hear people saying it's selfish if you don't want to have kids, I'm like, it's selfish to have kids that you are not prepared to properly parent, not just have a baby, but to properly parent. And the fact that you're like, if I can't do it the way that I feel is right, not that there is a cookie cutter right way,
Right.
but if I can't do it the way that I want my child to be raised, then yeah, it's a no for me.
And look at the role model I had. It's like, yo, if I were to have a child right now, it could be the ghetto. I don't want that for my child.
The ghetto, baby.
It's
like, crazy out
the
here.
The schedule is insane. And I actually meet a lot of unhappy moms. Like, they're great people and they love their kids, but they're not happy. And I'm just like, I'm so glad. They all say, oh, I wish I could be you. And I'm just like, if they all telling me that, it's a sign.
Why would I sign up for this?
It's
it's definitely a thing. I think that we've talked about this before. There's no safe space for a mother to express any type of dissatisfaction with motherhood.
Right.
Because it's like, well, you had them babies. You know what you're signing up for. You pray for them. Do you know how many women wish they would have? It's always that. It's like you can't even vent. So absolutely, there's a Reddit thread. I've been going down a rabbit hole of unhappy mothers. I actually just wrote an article, XO Nicole, check it out. Millennial mothers are like regretting motherhood. But there's a Reddit group of like 130,000 regretful parents.
Oh my God.
That are literally just on Reddit, because that's their anonymous safe space to talk about the fact that I love this kid, but damn, I hate being a mother. And that's just not a conversation we're able to have. So the fact that you can recognize this and be like, oh, get somebody else to do it, I love that for you.
It makes it easier with dating too. It's like I also don't have to rush because I don't have that timeline.
That clock ticking. Yeah. Yes. I want to talk about your philanthropy and your aspirations to do like this global work. So one thing that I've told you offline that I'm going to publicly say is I got scammed. What are those companies that go over there to Africa and they take the pictures of those cute little kids and then they have the commercials here and they're like, you could sponsor a kid for just $8 a month. You could sponsor a kid. I would have the cards, the little pictures like lined up across my dresser when I was a little girl because I was sending my allowance to Africa. Now, almost 40 years later, I realized they were scamming and that money was not going to support those kids.
Terrible.
But you have truly been there, boots on ground, doing the work. And so I want to talk about some of the work you've done, but I also want to talk about some of the opportunities for people who truly have a heart to help, but don't want to get caught up with the middleman and potentially getting scammed while trying to do good.
Definitely. I'm definitely one that likes to give money directly to the source and the people who actually need it. I've been like that since a child. Like when I was 12 years old in middle school, I used to tutor autistic kids. So that, honestly, I get way more out of giving back to other people than I could ever get, give them in return. So I think like it's always been in me to like just love giving back and helping. When I was at Spelman, I was one, I didn't come from a background where, when I was growing up, 18, I didn't have that many people to look up to in my family and say, oh, they've gone to college, like, this is the path, My dad did go to college. My mom didn't. A lot of people in my family didn't go to college at that time. And getting a master's or a PhD, leaving the country, that was really unheard of at the time. But so I had a different appreciation for education at Spelman. So I noticed a lot of my friends, they had balances and they were like literally getting put out of school. So my dad I was telling my dad about one of my friends who was about to be put out of school. She had a balance of like 10 grand and my dad ended up paying her tuition. And so it was his inspiration that made me say, you know what, I'm going to start a scholarship fund. So I was the first student at Spelman to start a scholarship fund. At 19, it was my sophomore year, not affiliated with any other organization, and a current student. So I started the Student Emergency Assistance Fund. Through that fund, I've helped several people graduate from Spelman, and I also started a scholarship in Jamaica in honor of a close friend that lost his life. It's called the Dwayne Palmer Memorial Fund. So I've been giving scholarships to students in Jamaica and also doing some other work in Africa, which this January, me and one of my partners went and we had a water well built to provide water for over 3,000 people in Jamestown, Ghana.
Listen, sis said, put some respect on my name because I am out. I ain't posting about it. I'm out here doing the work. Somebody's watching this, though, and they're saying, okay, yes, Mea, I'm with it. How do I do it? How much does a water well cost? Because the reason I'm asking this, I think that I want to put in perspective how we are like so wasteful, and the little bit that we have could go so far for other people.
Yes. So the water well project, the whole everything from them drilling a hole 65 meters to them actually finding the water and filtering it and then connecting it with electricity so that it can continuously pump and have clean water. That was about $3,500.
3,500 US American dollars.
That's right. It was really inexpensive.
The
for
girlies
us.
are spending that for a bag,
Period.
for some shoes.
And over 3,000 people in the community benefited. And they're still sending us videos when they're getting water. So it's amazing. And shout out to one of I think a mutual friend, Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
She and I were able to help a family in Venezuela to actually get a whole house for about $2,000. Yeah.
So, for everybody watching this, because this is the other thing too, Mia. Oh, it's tricky, because a part of me is like, if $3,000 could go so far, we could literally help 3,000 people with $3,000. Sign me up, let's do it. Then the other little, I don't know if it's the angel or the devil on his shoulder, is like, but sis, what about the kids down the street? How do you reconcile that in your head? Because I know you do both, so I'm not talking about you, but what do you say for other people who want to get involved, who want to serve? Where would you tell them to start? Would you say start in your backyard because that's where you are, or would you say start global because your money can go so much further?
I would say start where you are, because it's always easier to reach out in your own community, somewhere you can touch. It could be a homeless shelter. It could be a foster home. It could be an elderly center. I spent literally thousands of hours in elderly, volunteering with elderly in high school and also in college. So there's so many different people that you can help, and it doesn't have to cost you a thing. There was a point where I used to work with so many homeless. I would drive around with like water and chips and like umbrellas. So if it was raining, I would just reach out and give someone an umbrella. Change and helping people doesn't have to be this billion-dollar thing. It could literally be giving someone an umbrella when it's storming and you saying, Jesus loves you.
It doesn't have to be a grand act.
No. And it doesn't have to be.
That's so good. So put some sandwiches in your car, a case of water. When I drive under, and I know probably every city in America is experiencing this in some way, but like the tents, some cities literally have like tent cities.
Yes.
When I'm driving, under the viaduct, on the highway, and I see the tent set up, I'm just like, first of all, where are they getting these tents? And second of all, how can anybody help these people? Like, is it literally like pulling up and dropping off a box of supplies? Is it, because then I don't know. It's like making a difference, but not putting yourself in danger. How do you do this safely?
I think, for me, I follow the direction of like discernment, the Holy Spirit. I'm never afraid. I'm actually not afraid to be around any type of person. You would be surprised the people who I'm with. Like, people look at my Instagram and they think like, oh, she's like so bougie. It's a brand. It's my work. Like, oh, she probably like only wants to be around people like this. Actually, it's the complete opposite. I'd rather be around just chill, humble, hardworking people. It could be working class people. There's people, homeless people in Atlanta who still recognize me from talking to them on gas stations. Today, I helped this man to not get put on a no-fly list. He was so drunk, he passed out on the plane next to me. And I had to lift this man up. It's on my Instagram.
Not you out here doing service this morning.
I swear, this is what I'm saying. Change is like small and big. I lifted this man up, had him in his seat. He dropping his phone. I held on to his phone for the flight. When the flight was over, I had to like shake this man hard, wake him up to get him to stand up. It was a hot mess, but I was like, you know what? I'm not going to judge him because I don't know. He was probably lit, got a little too lit,
We've been there. We've all been there.
Exactly. So I was like, I'm going to just help him out because other people would have been like causing a commotion about it, got him kicked off the plane or something. But as I said, change it could be anything. I think it starts with you. Just be a good person. Do what the Bible says. Simple. We're never going to follow it fully. We all save sinners. But the simple thing is treat people how you want to be treated. So in times like that, I always think, if I were in this situation, what would I want to happen? So that's how I try to help other people.
It's almost like your spirit is of service. It's like just, like when you show up to the scene, spirit is going to lead you to who needs and you're open to serving.
I'm open. Let me tell you, God is so real and he's so amazing. I have to just give him so much credit because God will use us no matter what. Like my favorite scripture, and I saw Pretty V, she actually quoted it yesterday. It's from 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 26 to 29. And it basically says, like, when God called you, you weren't noble. So basically, when God called you, you weren't nothing. But he called the fools to shame the wise. He called the poor to shame the rich. God will literally take you from where you are and use you as an example. And I do have the Holy Spirit within me. I was in the club. I'm not even going to lie. I was tipsy, girl. I was lit. I'm enjoying myself with one of my entertainment friends. This lady, she starts to have, like, she's, like, passing out. I've been in, like, it's just been crazy, like, my experiences lately. She was passing out and having, like, a seizure. This lady is, like, 5'10". I'm 5 feet. And she's, like, bigger. I'm literally tipsy in heels holding her up, like... And I laid hands on her and I was like, in the name of Jesus, Lord God, heal her right now. Like, and like she came out of being, her eyes were rolled in the back of her head. She came back and I helped to get this girl out of the club. And I was just like rubbing her saying like, it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. It's okay. Don't worry about anyone, judging you or looking at you. We all have moments. So as I said, like, God will use you anywhere you are and anyhow you are. That's for sure.
What is your self-care like? Because earlier you mentioned you're an empath, that, working in psychology took a toll on you. But you ain't working in psychology, but you're still very much so taking on the energy of other people. Any type of service that you do is going to take a toll on you. But when it's like serving, like is your being, it's not like you're serving when you show up to work. You're literally out on the street serving. What do you do to like replenish yourself?
For me, it's easier to be like on the outside than the inside. For example, starting a scholarship. I could use my network that I built in, over 30 countries around the world to fundraise for these causes. I set the criteria and I do nothing. I don't choose the people. I let the committee select, so I'm like fully out of it. Mm-hmm. So I think it's easier for me to be like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, like the project that you and I are going to be working on as well in Ghana. But my self-care is like, I'm always doing self-care. Okay. My massage therapist, shout out to Latifah in New Orleans, she just texts me a surprise, like, I have a massage waiting for you when you come back. I know, right? So I get massages like every 2 weeks or if possible. The chiropractor, I sleep 8 hours. I don't care. I get my sleep.
That's a rich auntie perk. That's a rich auntie perk right there, baby. Live your best life. Get that sleep.
Yes. So I sleep, and I spend a lot of time alone. Like when I'm not working, I'm pretty much always alone. So living in 6 different countries, like that was a comfort to me. I'm away from all the people I know, my family, my friends, and of course it's uncomfortable and it's hard at first to kind of build your own community, but it's so liberating because it's like you just have full control of your life, and it's so, you just don't know what to expect. Every day is a new day.
Mm-hmm. The introvert in me cringes at the idea. I've been on one international solo trip by myself. I've traveled to just nationally by myself, but one international trip by myself. And I was literally like on FaceTime with Kendrick the whole time. It was so embarrassing. I'm so ashamed to say it. Solo travel is not for me, which is the point I was getting around to, that everybody can't live this life because you could be like me and be an introvert and you could just not talk to people forever. The other side of me is very comfortable being to myself and being in control of what I'm doing. So I like not having to answer to anybody or entertain anybody. But how do you show up in a new country and say, okay, I'm going to live here? It's one thing to go visit. But what did you do when you stepped foot in your new dorm in Jamaica? What?
The first thing you do is go through a depression for a while.
Every time,
every country that living in. When I visit, I'm not depressed. I'm happy. I'm ready to go.
But when it's like a permanent.
Yeah, when you live there for, at least 5 months, I think maybe the first month, and a half, you're adjusting to the culture and all the differences. And so it is depressing, you know? But then it's like you slowly start to learn your area, and, you know, you get to know your neighbor or the shop next door, your favorite restaurant, and, you know, you just build different connections. So I'm able to do that and be like, I'm an introvert and an extrovert. So I've traveled to 31 countries on my own. I've only traveled with people 3 times, and I actually have more fun when I'm by myself because I am so spontaneous and I'm random. Like, in last time I was in Italy, I walked 40 miles in a week. Like, most people aren't going to be trying to walk
They're gonna be
from
complaining. I don't feel
right.
like doing that.
Yeah, and like I'll walk up on something like, "Oh, I'm about to do that." One time I was in Morocco going on a tour, and then the tour guide started telling me about the Sahara Desert. I was like, "Ooh, how far is that?" 6-hour road trip. Ended up staying a night in the Sahara. Like, that wasn't on the schedule. So, yeah.
Rich Auntie Life for real, baby. This episode is gonna be called Rich Auntie Life: How to Do It for Real. Dating globally. Can we talk about this? Okay, we're just gonna have all the conversations we've had offline. Let's have them online because you know it's all blackly black, 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 everything over here. Okay, so we're gonna stay with that theme, but blackness looks different across the globe. Okay, because there's Jamaican blackness, there's Ghanaian blackness, Nigerian blackness, and you've had an opportunity to experience being courted in these different countries. What's the tea, sis? Like, what these other black men doing? Like, do they need to leave the country to go find like what needs to happen?
Honestly, if you're single, go to Ghana.
Go to Ghana.
They are so ready. I love Ghanaian culture the most because they're really family oriented. I think the men are like really hardworking and providers. They value working and they also value providing. Like, when I was in Ghana, I was hard pressed to spend $200, and I was supposed to go for 4 days, but I extended it to 3 weeks because I was having a ball, literally. The guys are definitely like in Africa, I would say. I mean, I've only been around guys from like Morocco or Ghana or Nigeria, but those guys, as well as Jamaicans, are way more direct when it comes to dating. Like, you're not going to be a good looking girl that's out and no one's going to talk to you. That's so many black women's experience, like in LA, for example, or even like in London, where a black woman might not get any attention from a black male. They're looking at, you know, other ethnicities and things like that. Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot that goes into it. This is also something that I found interesting, like the height thing. I used to be against like shorter guys. I'm only 5 feet, but tall guys love me. Like, I was attracting guys that was like 6 feet, 6'5". So I was kind of used to that. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to talk to anyone under 5'10". In Jamaica, I think a part of that reason is because guys in America that are shorter, like, some of them tend to have that Napoleon complex and are insecure. Jamaicans and Africans, it don't matter if they 4'11", they will talk to.
They standing tall, baby.
Right, they standing tall and firm, confident. It's like they're not missing anything. So I do like that. I do like that the men in Jamaica and in Africa, they cook. They're used to, and they cook well.
Are there gender roles?
Definitely. Oh my God, so many gender roles, and you know, in the African countries that I'm familiar with, as well as in Jamaica, like, women cook and clean a whole lot more than Americans. Like, I would say, you know, American women, we might be like the laziest out of the group. And we're also like laziest in that way, but also hardworking, because
hardworking outside of the house more so than inside of the home.
Exactly. Like, fast growing entrepreneurs in the country, and, you know, education. So we're killing it for sure. Shout out to black women, period, all day, every day. But I'm just saying, like, you know, in terms of those gender roles,
black women were not taught to value domestic work, like taking care of your family. That is not something, and this is something that God had to get me together on, was, baby, you are not about to be treating this marriage like a side hustle and your business like your husband. You know, a lot of black women are raised to think that having the money and having a business and having the success is what we need to give all of our time and our energy to, even if we have a husband and kids.
Right.
So we don't aspire to be the best homemaker or manager of our home. Like, that ain't cool. We want to be the boss chick. culturally.
Yeah, I think some of that stems from like slavery too.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Just like the families being broken up and women like transitioning into that dominant force, and even like the welfare system. You know, people can't get a check if they have
That
two
man is
people in
here.
a household. So they're like kind of helping to separate the black
Yep.
family, meaning that obviously the woman's gonna have to work harder. So we have less time for that cooking and cleaning. Like I tell people all the time, I'm organized and I will clean. But cooking, like maybe if you're lucky, when I get married, I'm gonna have to change to 2 times a week, and we're gonna have to hire
You
help.
gonna change to 2 times a week?
Yes, and
From 0 to 2.
Yeah, from
Got
0
you.
to 2.
Okay.
And then we're gonna have to hire help, like meal prep and things
Or get
like
you a
that.
Ghanaian man, because they'll do the cooking.
Hey, listen, I still don't have a ring on my finger, so we don't know.
We don't know. It's gonna be a global ring. Okay. Let's see. What about the cultural differences that are not on the good side? Like the thing that because we've entertained the conversation of moving abroad, but the reality of moving abroad versus like the resort experience of vacationing abroad are two totally different things.
Yeah.
Even like we've talked about ATM situation and where the ATMs don't work, or there's one ATM for a 20-mile radius or whatever. Those small things that Americans are very spoiled by, the conveniences. What are some of those things that if someone watching this is considering moving abroad, they should be aware of or like prepared for?
At which country?
I don't know. Is there anything that's just like anywhere you go, there's going to be a delay in mail?
Yeah.
Anywhere you go that you ain't going to be able to order Amazon? Like, what are the things that's like, girl, get that out of your American mind?
It literally depends on the country.
Okay.
Like, for example, things are so slow in Jamaica. Everything's imported. And even though, like, you might be in London, which is further away than Jamaica, but you can get something shipped and received faster in London than you can in Jamaica. It's actually really expensive. So you might think like, oh, $200 US is 30,000 Jamaican. Yeah, 30,000 goes real fast. In America, I don't spend a lot of money, to be honest, but in America, like, if I budget, I can make 2 weeks go $200 last for 2 weeks on food, maybe 2 outings out of the week, groceries, like whatever. But in Jamaica, that $200 is like a 3-day situation. When you go to the grocery store for one meal, you're spending $70. Whereas, like,
because of the import?
Yes. So I thought I was gonna be balling out of control. Oh no. I like went through 20 grand in months in Jamaica. But in Africa, it's different. Your money's longer. My friend pays rent. His rent is $2,500 for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom with a long hallway for the whole year. Yeah, for the year.
See how she had to do that thing? Because I was like $2,500, but then when she said the year, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Land is cheap. Like land is cheap to buy in Africa. I remember, I don't remember the exact amount per square, but it was like $100 per square meter in Morocco when I went there in like 2015. So it depends. Like buying land in Jamaica is expensive. People, the cultural, you think you're all black, but some of those small things like Jamaicans and Africans, they take respect very seriously. I'm from the South, so I have like a lot of polite ways and excuse me and thank you and all of that. But I think they take respect to another level. They acknowledge each other in a specific way that Americans might kind of look over because we're just like moving fast or, we overlook it. And then also the way Americans communicate versus like Jamaicans versus, Ghanaians. Like Americans share a lot of information, whereas Jamaicans are very vague. Like if you ask them a question like, oh, like, what's up? Like, or what are you doing? They'll be like, oh, I'm on the road. Instead of saying like, oh, I'm shopping or I'm across the street, I'm down the street, I'm out of town. They never give you specific answers.
I'm outside.
Right. So sometimes, they really don't like all the specific or they'll feel like, oh, you chat too much. That's what they say. You chat too much. You're too fast. If you ask them a question, they'll be like, oh, you're nosy. Like, you're too nuff. Like, you're nuffing up yourself into my business.
Girl, the directness of it all.
Yeah, they're very
You
direct.
gotta have tough skin.
Yeah, in Jamaica, for sure, you get a nickname for everything. If you're black, they call you Blackie. If you're light skinned, they call you Pinky. If you're white, you're Whitey. I'm browning. Anytime you gain weight in Jamaica, you're gonna know because you get fat gal. I've gotten told I got fat so many times. Last time I was in America for like a month, I went back. You get fat, girl. I'm not used to it. So I met this guy named Patchhead, and I said, "Why is that your nickname?" He took off his hat. He had patches.
I've just embraced it.
They all embrace it. If you're fat, they'll be like fatty, or they'll be like bigs. Everyone who's big in Jamaica is called bigs. If you're skinny, when I first got there, they'll call you maga. Like, you're maga. You're nothing but skin and bones. So you do have to.
So you got to have some tough skin because
Definitely.
Americans like to be coddled and everything has to be soft and nice.
Yeah, it's different. It's definitely different.
So for a woman watching this who is like, I am ready to get out of here. I want to go experience living abroad, maybe 3 months, 6 months, whatever, just a little starter. What are like 3 places that you would say, okay, these are 3 safe destinations that you should give a try?
Honestly, I think people always talk against Mexico because of the cartel. There are some safe places in Mexico where you can stay for really cheap. You can get an Airbnb for a few $100s a month, and just to kind of get that experience. Airbnb really saves lives, and also like Uber. Uber is global. When I was in Japan, I couldn't speak Japanese, but I just ordered the Uber, and you know where you're going, you know where you're getting off. I would go countries like South America. They definitely know English, and those places like even Brazil is like really you can afford to be there. Housing, food, everything's cheap. So South America is good. If you can go further, I would say countries like Ghana, Kenya, Rwanda, places that are also totally affordable and also welcoming where they'll speak English.
What about doing business globally? So what are some countries that are open to it? Like have less of a barrier of entry, I would say, for you to be able to like set up shop or do business globally?
I think now like we're in the world of globalization and partnering with people around the world. So, and people are more like, businesses is more like person to person. So I haven't really come across any barriers because when I'm living in these countries, I'll build relationships with people in government, people in business, people in entertainment, and then ultimately, we'll end up partnering or working together. So I think like, you have the same mentality. If you have a hustle mentality, like when I was living in Spain in 2015, I didn't speak Spanish. I ended up doing a fundraiser and partnering with the United Nations Refugee Agency to do a benefit concert for Syrian refugees. So we had shelter built for Syrian refugees. And again, I didn't speak the language. I was going around using Google Translate to fundraise and also with some of the support of my friends. But I didn't know anyone in Spain. So what did I do? I got on Tinder. And I was sourcing people for the event. I found a DJ from Tinder. And then, I will leverage anything. I was walking around. I saw a cool venue. I just went and talked to the venue owner and told her about the idea. She told me she wanted to do an event with the UN, but they didn't answer her. I emailed them. They answered me the same day. And then we formed a partnership. And so the people from school, I just like networked across, leveraged the relationships that I built. But again, not being afraid to go door to door and then building relationships. If you find something you like I love empanadas. I would go to the empanada shop downstairs from my house every day. They started giving me free empanadas. I never bought an empanada again for like 6 months because I was like a valued customer. When you build with people, I think it's easier to actually, do anything. So in business, the key is just taking time and building those relationships.
I think social media has given the false impression of like how quick things need to move. And I think that forces people to subconsciously use one another. Like I have to rush a relationship with you because I'm trying to get something from you.
Right.
And I can feel that. I
Definitely.
can sense it. I can see you coming. Like I can sniff that on you. And most people with any kind of discernment can. But people are the key to, living out your purpose, really. There's always somebody on the other side of that opportunity. There's always a person on the other side of that partnership. So what's your advice for someone who knows the value of people, knows they need to create these networks and, build relationships with people, but they don't necessarily know how to do it, and they don't necessarily want to be seen as somebody trying to get something for people?
Yeah, so I've been building relationships in over 70 countries for the last 15 to 20 years. Most of my contacts, I haven't asked them for anything yet. I have a rule of thumb. I never ask anyone for anything between 5 and 10 years. 5 is if we get really closer fast and we can see we can work together. But generally, I waited 10 years so far. And so now I'm at the point where I'm pulling all of the resources. And then I would say the number one thing is add value. While I wasn't asking them necessarily for partnerships, I would go and support them. If they had a radio show, I would support their radio show. If they had an event, I would support the event, buy a ticket, sponsor, volunteer. Just try to be around them as much as possible in a way that adds value to them instead of asking them for anything. And also, while you're adding value to other people, adding value and building that foundation for yourself so they can constantly see you elevating. I think it's important for people to see you elevating without them having to put you on. So when they see you in the same room, then it's more of a respect thing than, oh, I helped to get you there. So if you're building yourself and adding value to someone else, then you're automatically going to get those relationships.
I think so many people miss out on that part of like being somebody. I don't want to say being somebody worthy in the room, because we're all worthy, but being someone that other people deems as worthy in the room. So building yourself up, doing your own self-work, making a name for yourself, making sure your resume is tight so that you show yourself as someone of value, to these other valuable people.
Yeah.
Because to your point, when you can like earn a seat at the table, people are much more likely to like pass you a plate than if you like begging for them to invite you to the table.
Right, definitely.
I've enjoyed this conversation, Mea.
Same.
Okay, last question, because this is Girl Stop Playing. And I feel like somebody watching this is playing with a passport. Somebody watching this is like, I don't need to leave the country. What do I need to do that for? I mean, millennials are definitely like getting passport stamps, so I don't know who this is for. But God is telling me somebody is out here like, no, I'm not leaving the country. There's nothing out there for me. I have everything that I need. What is your Girl Stop Playing for the people out there who feel like, I don't need to get these passport stamps?
Get the passport. Honestly, exploring like different food and cultures, and even just getting out of your comfort zone, getting out of your day-to-day, and like actually going to a place where you are just, anything could happen. The sky is the limit. It's so much potential. You never know where you're going to end up. I think that really does something for a person and for your spirit. So, girl, stop playing.
God, stop playing. I've seen so many posts of people who have finally like taken the leap and left the country, and they're always like, I'm just breathing different. Like somebody literally commented earlier, like I feel the toxins leaving my body when I land in wherever. Just the American,
yes,
the psychological warfare that we are under.
The violence.
The American, it's just crazy.
Yes,
that we think this is normal.
I feel so safe when I travel. Like walking around at night. Like in America, it's like the Wild Wild West. There's all these guns. In other countries, I just feel so much more safe and empowered.
So for the people who want to follow your journey, who want to stay connected and possibly support your projects, look in this camera right here and tell them where they can find you and how they can follow you online.
I'm Mea Boykins. That's MEABOYKINS at Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and MeaBoykins.com. If you're coming to Essence, let's tap in.
This has been another episode of the Girl Stop Playing podcast. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this episode with a friend. I love you, and I'll catch you next week. Peace. So if you enjoyed that episode, I'm willing to bet you are absolutely going to get your entire life when you log on to everybodylied.com. Y'all, I just launched my brand new blog, which is for women like me who are stepping into the newness of life, okay? Your girl got engaged, got pregnant, got married, and became a mom all in less than a year, and life came at me fast. as life was life, and I realized that a lot of the things that I had been led to believe were a lie. Survey says that was a lie. And so I am sharing all of my lessons learned and what I have discovered to be the truth, along with some resources on my new blog, everybodylied.com. Come on over if you are a woman who is experiencing the newness of life. I'll see you there.